Hello and welcome to another episode of Leader Logic. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to organize your to-do list. Now, we all get busy and we have pieces of information flying at us from all sides. So this episode will explain how to track all of the different tasks that arise from all of those different sources and how to combine it into one list that you can then manage and update on a weekly basis. So here are a few of the places where you might get information where taking your notes down in a notebook might be the most appropriate way. Now, the type of notebook that I would recommend is an engineering notebook. Now, I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but I haven't had mine with me. So this is my notebook here. You can see it's a hardcover black A4 spiral bound lined notebook, and all I do is I use a simple system where I use bullet points to mark down the information that I hear in different meetings and things like that. So anyway, that's the notebook. And if we look at this slide, it'll show you some of the sources of information. There are some activities that you're going to do as an engineer where you're going to come across tasks, and the easiest place for you to write them down is in your notebook. So these are things like workshops and meetings where you'll have your notebook on a desk in front of you, site visits. So the hardcover again is really good for site visits because it's hard. You can write on it without having anything to rest it on. We've also got teleconferences because you can sit there on the phone taking minutes. You've got conversations that you have in the kitchen where you can then duck back to your desk and write down any important information as soon as you've heard it. And then the last thing is when someone actually comes by your desk and say they need something urgently. So the most likely place you're going to record that is in your notebook. But it's important to recognize that you're going to become aware of tasks in other places where you don't have your notebook in front of you, or because it's been emailed to you, writing it down in your notebook would just be a duplication of effort. So what I'm suggesting with emails is that you find a way to streamline your emails so that you get rid of the stuff that's not important, that's just a distraction. And that means that your inbox is then focused on the things that the things that need your attention. So my recommended approach for dealing with emails is to first of all delete the junk, delete the newsletters that you get, have a scan through them, see if there's anything interesting, but if there's not, feel free to delete them. The second thing you can do is archive the things that are, useful for you to know, but you don't want them sitting in your inbox and clogging it up. So it's best to file them somewhere else. So I have generic files for admin information, generic ones for safety, and then I have a folder for each of the different projects that I'm working on that I can just drag and drop emails into that. Now, if there's a quick task or an email that's come in where it needs a quick piece of information, so it might need a yes or no answer from me, it might need some information that I've got readily to hand, it might need you to just think about something briefly and make a decision. Those are the types of things that I think as soon as you see the email, respond and get it off your desk and back onto someone else's. The next thing is often you'll get emails where it'll take you a long time to deal with, but if you get it to the right person, they can deal with it quickly. And so again, the person who's asking the question is left to get on with their work as fast as possible. So I always recommend either delegating if you can, or bouncing it on to the person that's most relevant. If you take all of those steps, you're going to be left only with the emails that really need some concerted effort to deal with. So those are the ones that I'm talking about from here on out. And what I'm recommending you do is that you use whatever tools you have available in the email system that you're working with to flag them and set a due date. So with Microsoft Outlook, you can apply a flag to an email and say when you're going to start dealing with it, when you're intending to finish the activity, and then you can also, flag it as a high priority or a low priority. And you can also categorize it, so you can apply color codes to relate to different projects so that it's easy at a glance to see how much of your task list is dedicated to one project and how much is dedicated to another one. And then the third source of information where you're going to become aware of tasks, where you're going to track tasks is a Gantt charts. So what I recommend doing is at the start of every week going into your Gantt chart and looking at so updating the status of the things that are in progress and looking at any new tasks that are coming up. So then we go back to the email task list, and really we're taking all of the things that we've written in the engineering notebook for the last week, all of the things that are coming up in the Gantt chart, all of the things that we flagged in our emails as being important, and collating them all into a master task list that you can then use to plan out your week. And then the thing that I've started doing this year that's actually working quite well is that I then scan through that remaining task list, which by now should only include important things that need some form of action. And often it might be 5 or 6 emails that are all related to that one action. What you're doing is looking through that list and figuring out what your priorities should be for the week, and then blocking out chunks of time in the calendar to deal with each of those. So I recommend doing the highest priority things first and making sure that you block out enough time to actually complete the task or to make progress, to a natural hold point. And then I only ever plan the first half of the week or the first 3 days of the week, because what you find is that you might not finish a few tasks and you need to reschedule them in to the end of the week. And then there'll be other priorities that come in and take precedence. So you'll need to shuffle around and you'll need some space to shuffle things around. And then the third thing is that, you might think of other activities that need to be added that are not necessarily other people's priorities, but might become your priorities, that you want to have that extra space to move things around. And the other thing is that impromptu meetings come up, and so you want some flex room to be able to accept a few other calendar invites as they come up. So with that strategy, what you should end up with is a work week with at least 3 days of time intervals blocked out to tick off the most important tasks on your task list. You'll also be able to tick things off as you get them done. And by doing that and by filing those emails, you should, at the end of the week, get down to something that is pretty close to inbox zero. So I do try and keep an inbox zero at the end of every week. And at the start of each next week, I make sure that I do my filing so that it really does hit that zero before I kick off into the next week. As an engineer, you're always going to have more priorities than you can really deal with, but this will help you pick out what things are the most important and make sure that you're dedicating the time to those. If you're seeing tasks on your list that you're never actually getting to the point of dealing with, it also helps you recognize what those are and talk to the people that are asking those questions and see whether there isn't some other way that they can get those tasks finished that doesn't necessarily involve you. Best of luck if you do try this system. You won't get it right first time. You won't get it perfect first time. This is an evolving system for me, and I've been going for years. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if I've forgotten anything. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell if you want to receive notifications. Comment. Let us know if there's any time management or prioritization challenges that you face in your workplace. And tune in next week for another episode.